I'm here to introduce a couple of men who stand on the line for Arizona, and they've been standing between you and me and the violence of human and drug smuggling, drop houses, kidnappers, and people who are here to steal our tax dollars as well. One of them is still a member of the military. They both should be highly decorated, but instead their reward for standing on the line for you and me is a lawsuit. A lawsuit not only against the state of Arizona that they love, they've shockingly also been named specifically as respondents in one of these lawsuits, claiming that they would violate the Constitution of the United States if allowed to enforce SB 1070, Arizona's new anti-illegal immigration law. And that's absolutely offensive to me. It was also offensive the other morning when a caller called in. It was offensive to that caller because he suggested that we needed to fight back. The morning after the feds filed their lawsuit against Arizona, it felt like we'd been kind of bouncing around a ring with another boxer. And you knew it was coming, but once the lawsuit was filed, it felt like you'd been punched in the face. And this caller suggested we need to come up with something. We need to do something. We need to countersue. I picked up the phone and I called someone who I've known for a while, who's an absolutely fantastic attorney who agreed to join me in this. And we'll bring her up in a minute to explain what we're going to do legally. But first I want to introduce a couple of men who have been trying their best with few resources, and it seems practically nothing from the federal government, to try and defend the border of the United States. Sheriff Larry Deaver of Cochise County and Sheriff Paul Babu of Pinal County.
Great. Well, Jim, thanks. It's good to be here, both with Sheriff Larry Deaver. I can tell you, he's in his fourth term, and I'm in my first term. And this is not a new issue for Arizona. That what is going on, and we've seen crime and the level of violence and the tactics by drug and human smugglers change. And it's becoming more violent. America is waking up. America is seeing, because the spotlight is upon Arizona, and the fact that it's not just 250,000 illegal immigrants who are entering Arizona illegally that have been apprehended by the Border Patrol. They're saying that's just one out of every 2.6. So we're talking about nearly 600,000 plus illegals who are coming into America. Okay? 17% of which have a criminal record. Some say this is as high as 1 million people. This has got to stop. How is this not a national crisis? And when we need help, and Governor Brewer and our legislature stood up in the absence of federal action to defend Arizona, to secure our borders, and to give law enforcement the tools we need to do our jobs, what is their response? Well, I can tell you what they've done in my county. They put up 9 or 10 billboard-sized signs warning our citizens not to go in these drug and human smuggling corridors in our desert, to not go hiking, to not go four-wheeling, to not go camping, but to stay out. Danger, warning. Armed smugglers are in this area. We're 80 miles north of the border. This is outrageous that this is happening in America. The other response from President Obama and Attorney General Eric Holder, even before they read the law, what did they do? They attacked Arizona, and one of the victims in this is law enforcement. The fact that they would undermine not just the rule of law, but to say that we would racially profile, to say that this is discriminatory and that we would go after people without all the procedures and laws of arrest, rules of evidence, the Fourth Amendment, protecting, safeguarding against unlawful search and seizure. That's not only disrespecting a pillar of our justice system, law enforcement. These are our protectors, our heroes in our community. That they have sided, the president, Eric Holder, have sided with the ACLU and have dragged us into court. At a moment that we need help, that we need to secure our border, we don't know who half of these people plus are coming into our state, they drag us into court at a time when we need help. Just this past weekend, Eric Holder was on the talk shows on all the different stations around America, saying there's going to be a follow-on lawsuit targeting our deputies, our law enforcement officers here in Arizona, waiting for one of our heroes to make a mistake. Civil rights violations. And what are they going to do? Instead of helping us, they're going to go after that officer and use that officer or that deputy as an example and parade them around. This is outrageous. We need to stand up for Arizona and stand up for our law enforcement. And this is why I'm proud to stand with Sheriff Deaver and other sheriffs in Arizona will likely be joining us. We're kicking this off today, establishing a legal defense fund, so there is no burden to our taxpayers. When our county attorneys, some of which do not want to take an aggressive position because some of which have questions about the constitutionality of this. Well, if my deputies have to effect an arrest for a Class 1 misdemeanor, not for a federal immigration law, if we have to effect an arrest, well, we better believe in the constitutionality of this law. So who better to stand up and defend against the president and Eric Holder than your sheriffs, than your law enforcement, who can clearly articulate how we're doing our job and what we need to do to protect our families here in Arizona. So this is a good day for us to stand up and to fight back.
Sheriff Deaver?
Thanks, Sheriff. Thank you all for being here, and thanks to the listeners. When this lawsuit was first filed, we were all actually taken very much by surprise that sheriffs and county attorneys in the state would be included in the suit to enjoin us from doing something that clearly needed to be done. And frankly, down on the border, we've been doing for a long, long time. And that is when my deputies become involved, engaged with illegal aliens in the process of pursuing their appropriate roles and jobs, we simply detain them once we determine they're here illegally. And that's not difficult to do. Most of the time you just ask them and they tell you. So then we turn them over to Border Patrol. I have the good fortune, frankly, in Cochise County of having about 1,300 Border Patrol agents assigned down there. When you get farther north from the border, you don't have that luxury. The Border Patrol is pretty much non-existent, and ICE has responsibility for detention, deportation of illegal aliens in those situations. And they're severely, severely understaffed and undermanned. I find it, last night before I went to bed, I was listening to Bill O'Reilly, and he closed his show with, well, that's it for tonight. And it occurred to me at that moment that the night was just beginning for the citizens of Cochise County. The night in terms of the continued assault on their properties, on their homes, when the illegal alien and drug trafficking escalates and rises to the level that occurs after dark, continual march of illegal aliens and drug smugglers across their properties. We've had many home invasions. You're aware of the Rob Krentz murder. There's one home down in along the border that's been burglarized 18 different times, all by smugglers and illegal aliens. I find it difficult to comprehend and understand why the federal government would take, and President Obama and Eric Holder, Justice Department, would take a position that the Arizona state law somehow interferes with their capacity and their ability to perform their duties. How can we interfere with something they're not doing currently? They are not performing their duties. They're not living up to those expectations. And ergo, the Arizona law. Finally, Governor Brewer takes a position, takes a stand, says, on behalf of the citizens of Arizona, and frankly the entire United States, says, enough is enough. If you're not going to do it, I learned a long time ago in this job as sheriff that if I don't do my job, somebody's going to do it for me. And sometimes you may not like the way they go about getting it done, but they're going to do it. They're going to step up because there is an expectation and a responsibility. I will admit to you that I was one of those sheriffs, and along with many chiefs of police, when this first broke loose in 1998, and this tide of illegal immigrants hit our, wish we could say we had a shore, but hit our southern border, that said, not my problem. It's a federal responsibility. They need to get it done. That lasted about a week when I recognized that it is my problem. Clearly, it is a federal responsibility to secure our borders, to protect the sovereignty of our nation. Failure to do that leaves the burden and the consequences in the laps of the citizens that we represent, and at the peril of public safety. We have a fundamental constitutional and statutory responsibility, and you want to read the statute, the very first duty of a sheriff is to preserve the peace. Well, our peace is severely fractured in this state. It certainly is in my county, And I intend to do everything I can possibly do to stand up and taking a passive attitude and a passive approach to this, which was initially what the filing of my county attorney, and I understand why he did. Simply, we just don't have the resources to battle this in court in a small market that we're in. But taking a passive, wait and see what comes out, and we'll just do whatever comes out of this approach is not acceptable to me, and certainly not acceptable to the people that I work for. And that's why I'm standing here with Sheriff Babu and hopefully other sheriffs in the state to say we're with the governor. We will mount an aggressive and robust and vigorous defense, hopefully with the help of people from around the country. And thanks again for letting us be here today.
Thank you very much, Sheriff Deaver. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more and tell you exactly how you can contribute to this fund here on News Talk 550 KFYI.